Welcome back to Still Mormon. Yep, it's been a while, and there's a good reason. Because a miracle has happened. I have the William Clayton Journals, all 3 volumes. That's right, the William Clayton Journals A, B, and C. These are the same journals that have never been released to the public, and every single person interested in this topic has been waiting to see these. I've had them for a while, and I couldn't talk about it, until somebody very important passed away, and I gave my word I wouldn't talk about it until then. But that gave me the time to study them and understand them in a way that no one has ever talked about before. And now I can say that I can prove to you that the historians who use these to prove that Joseph Smith was a polygamist, most, if not all of them, have no idea what they're talking about. If they had read them, the full journals, and understood them, there is no way that they would make the claims that they make in the way that they make them. Now, just in case they try to claim that there's no way I've read the journals and I have them, let me read just a few very brief excerpts from each one of them, excerpts that have never been made public before. This is from Journal A. Well, let's start with the second entry, November 28th, 1842. Monday this day, I attended the trial of the Temple Committee before the First Presidency. A written complaint had been presented to President Joseph, complaining of oppressive and unchristian conduct in Cahoon and Higbee, etc. And it goes on at the very end. The TC were amenable to him, and they had given bonds in the amount of $12,000 for a faithful performance, etc., etc. It's the 28th of November, 1842. Oh, then this one, the 12th of February, 1843. Sunday, wrote to Sarah Crooks. PM went to President Joseph's and counted $500 in silver and gold, preparing for Quincy tomorrow. At the end of Journal A, 27 March 1845, I had some talk. This is the end of the entry. Talk with Brother Kimball. He denies having said anything to any of my friends, only to stand true to me. Evening, I went to see Amos Fielding, etc. From Journal B, that's what I call the Gap book. Let's start with the 25th of April, 1843. Tuesday, I conversed with Scoville and others concerning Sherwood, said that when G.M. Nye was here, he prayed to the Lord and inquired if he was to be led by the nose and cuffed about by such men as Nye. He received for an answer, wait a minute, Nye is dead, and any other man or mason who attempts to ride me down or oppress me will run against the buckler of Jehovah, etc. Then let's see, on the 30th of June, 1843, President J, this is midway through the entry, left the buggy and mounted old Charlie. He called for Sister Emma and his brother Hiram, who, when they came up and took him by the hand, all wept tears of joy. Such a feeling I never before witnessed when the president took hold of the hand of his partner in sorrow and persecution. That's an incredible entry, by the way. The 31st of August, 1843, Thursday a.m. at the temple in President J's, he received a letter from Jedediah Grant containing information of Conrad's having received a letter. Sister E heard J read it and appeared for a while to feel very jealous. The 30th and 31st of January, he has a big conflict with Desdemona Fulmer, where she's complaining about him. On the 31st, it says, Wednesday a.m. went to see B. Young. He agreed to call at noon and bring Desdemona, and that's D, and H.C. Kimball with him. After I went to President J's, PM at the Temple office. After Bros Young and Kimball came and heard both sides of the story. D has manifested a malicious disposition, has lied in several instances. And then let's go to Journal C, finally. 25th of June, at the office all day, weather fine and warm. At noon, walk through the temple with Ruth, Margaret, Diantha, Lydia, and my sister Lucy, and it goes on. And then finally, the 10th of December, 1845, very, very long entry about things going on in the temple. He writes, Wednesday a.m. at the office, quite unwell. At 9 o'clock, President Young came and said he wanted me up in the temple and would not take no for an answer. I accordingly quit work and went up in the attic story where several of the brethren had already assembled. The president appointed George A. Smith doorkeeper and gave him the key. Elder Kimball requested me to write his private journal today. President Young, Elder Kimball engaged themselves by fitting up the curtains over the large window in the east end of the temple. Sisters Kimball, Whitney, and Pratt also assisted. And it goes on for pages, actually. Okay, so these journals are everything. And what you read on the pages of all three of these volumes is astonishing. And why? Well, first of all, they are claimed to be and are the only source, supposedly during Joseph's lifetime, that establishes Joseph Smith as a polygamist. The only contemporaneous source, unambiguous, and when I say unambiguous, it's about 22 to 24 entries. 24 entries in one book, Journal B, the Gap book, that purport to establish Joseph Smith as a polygamist. Of those, less than a dozen are unambiguous, and the rest are actually ambiguous, but people read into them polygamy into those entries. Less than 24 sources or entries in this one record, and there's no other. I know people claim that there's others, but those are ambiguous and need to be triangulated with other sources in order to make sense. There is no other contemporaneous source, no letters, journals, marriage records, no children, no grieving widows at the funeral of Joseph and Hiram, except for Emma and Mary Fielding Smith. Supposedly over 140 secret polygamists in Nauvoo, and nothing? Not one of those 140 plus people left a single trace during that time? Not one of the people they knew? How many of those 140 people knew a few people that they told? According to George A. Smith, it was, I think, 200 people he said knew. There is no other clear, unambiguous source, not one, except the William Clayton Journals. It's kind of like a Jenga piece. If you pull that out, that tower, that model for understanding what was happening, it falls down. And the rest of the argument doesn't mean the same thing. It's very different without this record. Some historians have called the journal the smoking gun. And it's been used by every single historian who's written on the subject of early Mormon polygamy. Every single historian who's written on that subject has used this journal, but most of the historians who've written on the subject have never seen the journal or read the full typescript, and yet they use it extensively, just trusting that it is what some have claimed it to be, just assuming that it is what some have claimed it to be. What? William Clayton's private, intimate, trustworthy daily diary. This is, frankly, I've used a phrase that some people don't like, historical malpractice. This is the biggest case of historical malpractice yet. The way these journals have been used, the out-of-context excerpts that were released in the 80s by Gerald and Sandra Tanner after Andy E. Hatt copied some of James Allen's notes, and those got stolen and photocopied, and the Tanners printed it. They won a lawsuit. They had the right to print it, and then it was later printed by George D. Smith, just the excerpts, not the full journal. 22 to 25% of out-of-context excerpts. Robert Fillerup compiled a little more, pulling sources out of James Allen's biography on William Clayton and compiling stuff from Michael Quinn and other sources. And he gave us a little bit more, but still no more than 25 to 30% of the journal out of context. Well, the very few who have seen the journal, they have never explained what I'm going to show and explain to you. There is tremendous stuff in here, and no one's ever talked about it. And most importantly, the journals are not what they've claimed them to be. They are not what you think. It's actually worse. and not for the reasons you may think. Well, this is just the beginning. I now know these journals. I know them so well that I've now written a full book on the subject. It's called The Clayton Conundrum. Why the conundrum? Because, well, they've built an entire argument on a book that isn't what it's purported to be. And I'm going to go through every single bit of it with you. I promise you I'm going to share all of this with you. And I can't wait to do it. Well, thanks for being patient with me. And until next time, thanks for stopping by.